Well, look, as you know, we've got local body elections coming up, and because they're fun and because they can be quite colourful, what do we have on Friday? The egging of a candidate in the Auckland mayoral election. That's been fun with Leo Malloy and the Guy Williams interview. Afiso Collins not being racially attacked in his car because it was his wife. And in Wellington, we've got a sitting MP, Labour MP, who doesn't have the kahunas to actually resign as an MP and run for mayor. He's going to do two bloody jobs at the same time and go back to being a Labour MP if he doesn't get the mayoralty. And if he does, he resigns and there's a by-election in Rongotai. That's Paul Eagle. Also, we've had Maurice Williamson, former National Party cabinet minister, on the show. And Maurice Williamson went from saying he's not interested in local body politics. He's running as a councillor in the Howick ward in Auckland and really into the spending issues in Auckland. So there does seem to be this slight trend or trendette towards people who have served in a national capacity as politicians, going back not always to their roots, but some might say, the uninformed might say, regressing into local body politics. Well, one person who's just announced that they're joining that trend is former Nelson Tasman MP Nick Smith, long-time National Party MP, was at one stage, I think, the grandfather of the House. That meant he was the longest-serving MP. He left under his own volition and resigned, but now he's getting back into politics. He's having a tilt at the mayoralty of Nelson, and he joins us on the line from Nelson now. Nick, welcome to the platform. Nice to have you with us.
Oh, lovely to be on your program. Good to see you guys stirring a few pots.
Now, I could look at you, Nick, and say this sounds like an unhealthy addiction to just being in politics. After, how many years in Parliament did you have?
Did about 31 years, so 6 years as the Member of Parliament for Tasman, pre-MMP, and then 24 years serving as Nelson. I lost the seat in the big COVID election of 2020. Pretty much made the decision when I became a list MP that wasn't for me. My heart's always been in Nelson. The current mayor announced her retirement last month. Council's a bit of a mess. Lots in my community have asked me to stand. I've been working in the wind industry, interestingly, back in the family business.
Some
for the
would
last
say you were
12 months.
always in the wind industry, Nick.
Yeah, that'd be so. To get turbines for a fair while, and that's actually been really good fun. And really, having been involved in climate change, doing something practical and useful. My view is that New Zealand does need to grow its renewable energy, but actually, my heart's in Nelson, and seeing the council being lost its way, needing new direction. Actually, my view is that I can make a contribution to our community there.
It's funny, from an outsider's point of view, you'd look and you'd think you were a senior member of the National Caucus and Cabinet for a long time, Nick. You know, you were only one or two steps away from the big job. A lot of people might look and say, surely being in municipal politics, being a mayor of not the biggest town in New Zealand, a particularly nice one, I must say, Nelson, surely that's got to be a bit of a come down.
Yes, but it's still community service, and anybody who knows me well will know that the entire time I was a Member of Parliament, I was always a raving enthusiast for this community. The part that's really nice about local politics is that whole atmospherics of Parliament and Wellington can get so disconnected from what the real world is. And that element of local politics, whether it be the issues about the library or whether it be the water or whether it be the roads, that's actually practical stuff that makes a real impact on people's lives, needs to be done well. And then you throw on the top of it this issue of three waters, which is an absolute dog of a policy, and that's being unkind to our canines. Look, a third of the assets of the Nelson City Council are tied up in water, and the deal that the government is proposing is bad for Nelson. We've had one of the few councils, being Nelson, that is supporting it. That says, look, this is wrong. Someone has to have the courage to be able to get up, blow the whistle, and say this should not be happening.
So you're campaigning on a reversal of the council's current attitude on three waters?
Absolutely. My view is that they have been sort of sucked into this idea that big is better, Nelson lost control of its polytech, one of the best in the country. And that was driven by a philosophy that centralisation is good, that Wellington is the source of all wisdom. Now, it's been an awful flop, not just locally, but nationally. And I fear that with the changes to Three Waters, what is going to happen in Nelson is that we will pay more for less.
Mm. Nick, you've also had in your career, I personally think, some of the most vile sort of political rhetoric and gamesmanship perpetrated on you. And it's one of the things I've always admired about your career. You haven't reacted to what have been, like, even physically, some of the most dangerous and vitriolic attacks on a politician I've ever seen. And I'll go through quickly. I think you had excrement or urine thrown at you one weekend at your electorate caravan in Nelson. You had a massive statue of you going to the toilet, sculpted by a leading artist and delivered to Nelson on the back of a truck in a blaze of national publicity. And there's one other incident, I'm not sure if you've talked about it, so I'm not going to raise it, even worse than those two, where you were made to consume something no one should have to consume by a group of people who misled you. Why on earth, having suffered all that in your political career, would you get back into it?
Firstly is that as an elected representative, there's far more good than bad. Yeah, you can focus over 30 years on some of those incidents that were pretty ugly and horrible, but the upside is 100 times over. So if I take the community of Nelson that was privileged to serve as their Member of Parliament for about 30 years, I would rate the positive interactions, even from people who totally were opposed to my politics, 100 to 1 or even greater, in terms of being polite and interacting and being engaged. So you just can't let yourself get consumed by the negative. Equally, whether it be the platform or your own career as a journalist, Sean, yeah, you can pick the odd spot where you're bound up at a pub and someone does their prunes, but actually there's so many more positive influences that make it worthwhile. And so on balance, it is me. And my view is that I can do some good for Nelson. I'd love to have that opportunity.
Yeah. Nick, you're not campaigning as a National Party endorsed or a National Party candidate here?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. My view is simply about New Zealand, that you need to be able to have your mayors and your civic representatives to be able to get on with whoever is the government of the day. And I actually think it's a backward step when we have actually party-labelled tickets in our councils, because it disrupts that. It's not in the community interest. So I've made quite plain I'm standing as an independent. If Labor does good in Nelson, I'll be cheering them along. If National proposes things that are not good for Nelson, then I'll be a critic. That's the best way in which it can work for the community I'm seeking to serve.
All right, who are you up against? Who are your big contenders?
Oh, there are about 5 candidates. There are 3 existing councillors, and one of the things that's triggered the interest in my standing is that, like I say, the council is a mess. You've got the mayor going, the deputy mayor going, you've got 5 other councillors, the chief executive is resigning, the senior planning manager is going, and my view is it is going to take outside interest. I've taken the time over the last month to meet with the current councillors individually, to meet with the independent directors, meet with many retired councillors, and there's a deep concern in Nelson that the council has lost its way. There are 3 of the existing council. They would be the main contenders who are also seeking it. I just don't see how someone who's been part of that problem can really give the reset that the Nelson Council needs.
All right, Nick. Nick, also the thing, I guess, is that a rising tide, and no matter what you say about running as an independent, 31 years as a national MP or national line person means there's a subliminal connection between you and National. And it would be fair to say National's tide is rising, or certainly that Labor's tide is going out. That's got to be good for you in terms of the municipal race.
Look, I'm proud of my background with the National Party, those core values that National has of being pro-enterprise, of wanting individual freedom, all those things, they haven't changed. It's just that I don't want the brand of national to get in the way of doing the right thing for the town. There's no question that there's been a massive political mood shift over the last 12 months. You know, I've been a student of politics for 3 or 4 decades. I cannot see a government going from hero to zero so quickly as I have over the last 12 months, whether it's the housing or the law and order. And I think the ones that are the real problem for government in areas like health and education that are looking like in an increasing mess, but they're not really the issues that people focus on in council elections. I think the one that will be the number one issue of this local election, certainly in Nelson, and I think it will dominate the local elections nationally, is the Three Waters. So it should. It's a third of the balance sheet of what councils own. It's a massive reform, making sure that you've got good drinking water, that the stormwater works and the sewerage works is actually one of the core basic things that we expect council to do.
You would have been surprised over the weekend to see the Prime Minister tell Jack Tame on Q&A that Three Waters reforms guarantees and sets in concrete the ownership rights of councils.
Oh, well, I've never seen that. That is simply grossly misleading. And the analogy I would make, it's like me saying to you, Sean, hey, you own your home, but you can't determine who the tenant is. You don't get to decide whether the house gets demolished or not. You don't get to decide what mortgage might be raised on your property. But, hey, guess what? You still own it. Now, that's just being very acute with the truth. The reality is that Three Waters takes away the control of billions of dollars, in Nelson's case, $630 million worth of water infrastructure, and that the council in future will be powerless to be able to deal with that. And look, I'm a very practical politician. You know, we get a big rainfall event like we've had in the last few days. Somebody has their property inundated with stormwater. Right now, they ring up their local councillor. Those numbers are available. And actually, the councils do a pretty responsive job, and the council gets the arse if they don't respond to those sorts of instances. Do you think the phone numbers, the cell phone numbers of the new board of these water entities is going to be available for that person that's just had their house flooded? Of course not. It will not be as responsive. And then the other really big issue for the people of Nelson is the whole country knows that Wellington has grossly underinvested in its water infrastructure. Unlike Nelson, it's done a pretty good job. Why should Nelson, that is actually a less well-off community than Wellington, have to pay the billions that's going to be required to fix the major water infrastructure in Wellington? It punishes those councils that have historically done not a bad job of looking after their water services.
Geez, Nick, it sounds like you're back in the zone, you know, the campaigning zone. Come on, give me an honest assessment, which I'll knock about 50% off, of your chances of... I think
I've got a good chance, but I'm a realist. I've stuck my head up in politics before. Sometimes I've won, sometimes I've lost. I just want to give Nelson people that choice. And doing it with my eyes wide open, that I may be back building wind farms in October.
Okay, what do the family think of you getting back into politics?
Oh, well, and I promised my wife when I retired from Parliament that I would be at home a lot more. And the opposite has been true. The truth is that Nelson's not a very windy place, and there aren't too many wind turbines here to build, so I've been predominantly in Palmerston North and also in the Hawke's Bay.
Yeah.
Don't go there, Sean. You'll get yourself in trouble with your listeners. I could just hear it coming on. Anyway, so she's delighted and very supportive of me having a go. I'm back in the family business, and they would prefer I'd stay out. Thank goodness there are disclosure rules, or I fear some of my brothers might be funding my opponents.
Nick, good luck with it. I think you're mad, but there you go. To each his own. Good luck with the race. We'll keep an eye on it. That is Nick Smith, former National MP and Cabinet Minister, and now, well, what is Nick? He's a municipal hopeful. He's running for Mayor of Nelson, and boy, pretty strong on Three Waters there. Absolutely unambiguous on that issue.